Hey everybody, sorry for the starting delay. That's our first stream on YouTube, so it was some technical difficulties. So actually, welcome on the Perforator Club. It's the first event in 2023. It was a pretty big pause from last event due to the war in Ukraine, but actually we have a really big plans for 2022, 2023. So if you are interested in our events related to performance testing, stay tuned. So actually the easiest way how you can know something about new events or new trainings or any new information is to join our Perforator Club community. That's the number one. The link is in the Telegram. The link for Telegram actually in the links below this stream. Also, you can subscribe to this channel because all next events will be as live streams here. And maybe if you want, you can connect me in LinkedIn because I am announcing all the videos, all the events there. So a few announcements for next events. This one is actually related to the native mobile application performance testing. So that's really I would say that's the unique topic because most of us were not working on with this and on this, and probably not all projects need this, but it's really interesting to know about this. But next few events will be related to JMeter, and the topics will be not trivial at all. So first one is testing HTTP2 protocol. So it sounds pretty easy actually. I had a project with HTTP2 testing. It sounds okay, just the change of protocol as usual in JMeter. But I found out that there are a lot of pitfalls and issues that you could face while testing it. Actually, in the implementation of HTTP protocol plugin for JMeter. So stay tuned. Another big topic and really interesting. I'm sure all of you will be interested in this. Is how to make JMeter working similar to browser in scope of interacting with static data and dynamic calls which are sent from JavaScript. So that's the big pain in us, actually, how to emulate the browser behavior with AJAX requests. And I almost figured out how to do this similarly to how it works in browsers. So stay tuned. We will have a lot of interesting events soon, and as well as today. So actually, the story itself of Mykola. So welcome, Mykola. Actually, his story is pretty interesting because first of all, it's not even about just testing native applications, because you can also watch some other videos or find some tools. I'm really inspired by this story in scope of how the person without a lot of relevant experience in this testing, the synergy of his desire and actually support of his company, it resulted in actually implementation of new free tool. I believe he'll tell more about himself and this story, how they, which goals did they have before starting this testing? Why do they need it? Why do they need testing these native mobile applications? Maybe their research, because I know there are some tools on the market which allows you to test, to do actions like this. but most of them, they are commercial, so you need to pay for them. But let's hear what Mikola says. Oh yeah, welcome. I'm really happy you're here. Yeah, few words about yourself.
I was working alone on this kind of instrument and released second version of it. And here you can see our logo, PMetrium Native. And let's start. A few words about me. I'm principal QA engineer at a great tech company. Sorry, not starting for sharing my screen. It should be already now. I hope you see it. So, a few words about me. I'm principal key engineer at great tech company, a successor of Parimatch Tech last year, and I have some years experience in IT and automation as well. My main responsibilities are automation, non-functional testing, development of testing tools and frameworks. You can reach me out at LinkedIn profile in case you will have some additional questions right after the meetup or any other ways to communicate with me. So actually, that's all for the presentation. Are just 2 slides. Instead, I decided to build my presentation following from the documentation. I put a lot of effort to this documentation, so I think it covers almost everything and we need and well organized. So let's start. A small intro to PMetrium Native instrument. Basically, almost 1 year ago, we got a goal to task to create or even to find approach how to perform performance testing for mobile devices. Basically, we had and have native application of for Parimatch, and we were asked how we can test this application in terms of we try to communicate with one of the team which developed UpTeam instrument for performing mobile testing of and to collect performance metrics. In some way, they were a great option. At the beginning, we thought we tried to communicate with them, but we didn't get an answer even in 2 weeks. So we get rid and given up on them. So we started to look at other options. Other options were not so good as we thought, and we decided to try to create something new with based on the knowledge we have for backend performance testing and client-side performance testing. Of course, native applications and mobile devices are totally different from what we do regularly in terms of performance. And also Anton mentioned about that. But we decided in any way to try, and we started from creation of the requirements, what we wanted to achieve at the end. The basic requirements for us was the ability to work with both Android and iOS platforms, ability to work without manual actions to gather metrics. the main goal was to automate this process and to build CI/CD pipelines to get metrics up automatically. Easy to integrate into existing functional tests, no need to rewrite them. So tests for functional tests were for us like a black box. We didn't want to penetrate to them and to change even one line of code to integrate PMetrium Native. Another requirement was stability and reliability in order to repeat measurements to trust metrics, not to get different metrics from run to run. And the last requirement was easy metrics access, well structured and visualized reports. We didn't want to manipulate by files, HTML reports, CSV reports, and so on. We just want, we have a de facto standard in our company for any kind of metrics like Grafana. So we wanted to collect these metrics and to save them into database and just visualize with the help of Grafana. So it's just a small introduction to PMetrium Native, what it really is, and let's look at some more understandable pieces of documentation.
Yeah.
Two
Sorry,
logical
Mikola. One
diagrams.
question, quick question.
Yes.
So you said
Yes.
that actually you researched the market, you found some like, commercial solutions which were like, were they able to solve these requirements that you showed right now?
Let's start from that on the market we found only two more or less good approaches. One of them was AppSpectre. One moment. AppSpectre, yes, and it helps to gather metrics even in a real time, but the main disadvantage for us was they required to penetrate their code inside of the application. So we couldn't just took any native app and to measure the performance of it. And another issue with them was that they didn't cover all kind of metrics we wanted. As about AppTeam, it's another good tool. We actually looked at it from the point of view what metrics do they collect. We don't know what is under the hood, but basically they collect metrics which we interested in. For example, CPU, RAM usage, network. Even they provide some CI/CD solutions, but it requires an enterprise subscription to them. So after some time with waiting for their reply, we gave up.
So actually, your company was ready to pay something for them, right? And they just ignored.
We wanted to pay to look at the CI/CD approach and to look at if it will be able to satisfy our requirements, but we was not able to do that.
Maybe they were not sure that if they are able to satisfy your like CI/CD requirements. Okay, and so and another question is more like general actually. By the way, guys, if you have like any request any questions, so you can comment in chat. So I'll just check it from time to time and we'll ask these questions, or we will have the like Q&A session at the end. So I have more general questions. So why would you like to test the performance of application itself? So why I know server-side performance testing was not enough in your case? Like your application is working with some API, right, with some backend. So why this performance testing was not enough? So did you found any like performance issues before you started testing? So you, like your company, understood that, yeah, that's the big priority. We need to check this.
There are a lot of different reasons why we started to pay attention to the performance. First of all, our native application, very much was constantly growing, and more logic added to it. So we even don't know how does it one moment, I'm trying to remember. In how does it how did it influence to the experience of the user? We didn't have any kind of instruments like ultimate instruments to measure the performance and the user experience. We encountered some issues on the native applications. Sometimes it crashed due to not enough memory for it, and we even didn't have an instrument how to measure that. So let's continue, or do you have another question?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's totally clear. Thank you.
Okay. Let's move to logical diagram. It's a bit more should be a bit more understandable what is going on when we are speaking about PMetrium Native. Let's imagine that we have just a workstation. It can be laptop or some kind of a runner on CI/CD, and just Android or iOS devices connected to that workstation. In a classic way, we will have some functional tests, manual or automated, and to represent some interaction with the device and the application itself. And we have that application installed on mobile device. When it comes to where the place of PMetrium Native on this diagram, we just need to have our application PMetrium Native working on the workstation, connected to having connection to time series database. In our case, it's InfluxDB, and some tool for the visualization. As I said before, we have Grafana for this, and also I used Grafana for PMetrium Native. You can find the dashboard in source code. I will show you later. So move next to process diagram. This functional test diagram have some connection with this part described in a with violet color. So functional test diagram. In this case, we do not have anything about PMetrium Native, and all already known blocks or nodes for us: functional test, workstation, Android, iOS device. In regular cases, we just need to give a command to start functional tests. Request to start, and test begin run, and then communicate with Android or iOS devices. Also, it can be emulators or simulators to perform functional tests. But in case of measuring performance, we strongly recommend to use real mobile devices. And then after some tests, you will get the results. When it comes to PMetrium Native in this diagram, there will be added just one step before and one step after. First step is required to start measurement with the help of PMetrium Native. We just send a command understandable for PMetrium Native with API. Then when everything starts, we can continue with regular functional test flow, which we have seen above. And after some functional test or manual interactions, we need just to call another API native to stop the measurement. And then we extract some raw metrics parse them on PMetrium Native site, save to InfluxDB, and visualize with the help of Grafana. So it's quite, in my opinion, it should be quite clear diagram on where is the place of PMetrium Native in context of functional test flow, or even for automated tests. Okay, now it's time to move from the documentation to a short demo just to show and what PMetrium Native is really are and how to work with it. And then we will look at some prepared in advance examples, and maybe for some of you who will be interested in and will wait, I will show some details what are under the hood of this instrument, and we'll be able to answer your questions related to them. So moving to GitHub repository for PMetrium Native, you can find here the source code of it. The latest release is 2.1, released a few days ago, and some short explanation with a link to documentation and live demo with GIFs files. So we need to download PMetrium Native package. You can find it here with some branch, for example, release 2.1. We need to download it, and I already did that.
Quick question.
One
So
moment. Yes.
is it cross-platform? So can we run it on like Windows, Linux, Mac?
It can, yes, it cross-platform. You can find your architecture with the name. Just one restriction related to iOS platforms that we cannot run measurement for iOS devices not on macOS systems. So in case of Android, you can choose any platform you want, but in case of iOS, you can choose only OS X platform.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So I downloaded PMetrium Native in advanced. So let's check what we have in my machine. One moment.
And does it require any dependencies? Like as for
Yes,
JMeter, I mean just not in package itself, but like to run JMeter, you need to download and install Java. So do you need something
there
for
are
this?
some such, yes, there are some kinds of requirements related to Android and iOS platforms separately. You can find them in prepare workstation page with all the details you need to prepare in advance to be able to work with PMetrium Native for Android separately and separately for iOS. For just a few words, you need to Android debug bridge protocol is installed on your workstation. In case you are developing locally, you need Docker to up and run the infrastructure such as InfluxDB and Grafana. And you even don't need .NET platform installed on your machine, because in case of packages, files also already contains runtime for and all libraries related to PMetrium Native. So no need to install .NET as it is in case for Gmeter Java, for example. But there are a lot other requirements. For example, for iOS, it's code installed, or even we do not need Xcode itself. We need XCtrace utils in CLI. But for me, they were installed together with Xcode. I guess there is an option to install them separately from Xcode. But definitely there is a case when the version of these utils will impact which versions can work, which versions of iOS platform can work with XCtrace utils. So there is some connection between versions of Xcode and iOS platforms.
Okay, got it. And
Okay.
if somebody have like, I mean, what's the source or communication channel with you? So is it this GitHub repository, or like where guys can ask you when something is not working or they have some questions? Let's say they are trying to install this all these iOS prerequisites and something is just not working.
The first place to communicate is just to create an issue in GitHub repository. It would be the most correct way. Another option was to communicate with me in Telegram or in LinkedIn profile, but as I said, the ideal way is to communicate with the help of the issues in GitHub. I will check them, will fix in case I will be able to do that, and make everybody happy.
Yeah, it's easier to like to work with issues, so everybody, like other folks, also can see some issues that they may face. And another quick question
Yes.
before we move on. So Roma is asking, is it possible to measure results with only mobile emulators, like not with using real devices?
It is possible for Android platform. Of course, you cannot be totally sure what absolute results you will get in this case, because it is emulator. But in case of iOS platform, you do not have that option, because some instruments under the hood for PMetrium Native are not able to work with emulators for iOS platform.
Okay,
So
thank you.
the answer,
I
Android,
I, I
yes.
believe I believe yes, it's more than
Okay.
enough.
So moving to demo, I have downloaded the PMetrium Native package, extracted an archive, and proceeding to the directory. Here we have just two files and one directory. One directory with scripts for Android, another file for settings. You have not so much settings to take care. You can just choose any local level you want to host on which port, um, to let PMetrium Native know with each InfluxDB to work and how to log in there. I will change local level to debug just to show more information during the demo. And start the host. So PMetrium Native right now is working. We can look at Swagger for the API of this instrument, or to check the API in the documentation with some examples and some list of the endpoints. Just simply a few examples with endpoints. First of all, you can check health checks for Android and iOS. Under the hood, they check minimal requirements for the system, like ADB. Does it have any connected device at all? Or for Android, it seems to be all, but for iOS, there is another tool to be which is required to work. So just let's check. It will return in case of success, just okay. In case of unsuccess, it will return some details what is missing, and the same for iOS. Just okay. So live demo. we can do that in a lot of ways. How to start the demo? The easiest one I just prepared is to use a curl. Let's start from Android. I have an own application for debugging of our instrument PMetrium Native, and I will show a demo with the help of this application. Just one moment, I will share your screen with the help of TeamViewer. Sounds strange, but it's a working option for me.
Actually, you can if
Yes.
it's iPhone, you can just connect it with your like this USB cable, right? And the screen will be available in the on your
Okay.
Mac.
In case of iPhone, it's in case of Android, it was a bit
It's harder,
harder.
yeah. And these applications, this demo application, are they available on the market, like on the Play Store or?
They available to install from the source code. You can reach that code from GitHub repository, Android test app and iOS test app. It's not placed in any markets, not in Google Play, not in App Store, just for debugging.
And how to install them? Let's say I would like to test it to like to repeat all the actions that you are showing right now.
In case you would like to use my app applications, you need to install Xcode for iOS. For Android, you need to install Android Studio, and then you will be able to run the application with the help of IDE.
So actually you start it from like from source code, right? So it's not built.
Yes,
Okay.
like this. I need to choose my application, and I can really write start this application on my iPhone.
Okay, got it.
So moving back to demo, we have a working PMetrium native host. Just copying this command, you need to pass a device and application you are going to test. Even this parameter is not required, and you will be just checking the system behavior itself. But I will show you my application, and I just need to make sure that my device is showing. Yes, this is my device. I will make it a bit organized here. One moment. Should be okay. Yes, and copying this command, pasting, and yeah, just executing the command. You will have some activities under the hood for PMetrium Native. And we are ready to start following from the request of curl. You can see my application. It is working right now. I just going to click some CPU start activity. It creates a huge cycle to create a huge load to CPU. Then we can increase RAM memory with some objects created. We will see that impact on the graph. Then just clear RAM, create some network activity with open API for datetime. Let's make another call. Yes, we updated the data. Let's show some GIF to create FPS and just stop. Now I just need to copy this command to stop the measurement. And we can see the activity in PMetrium Native. It's taking some metrics from the phone. returning a response to stop endpoint with some statistic related to all metrics taken from this run. You can read more about the structure of the statistic on the documentation. There is a separate page for this measurement statistic. So for Android and for iOS. Just quick example for CPU. CPU for the system in percentage. Average, mean, max, percentiles, actually it's median, and another percentiles values. So moving to Grafana. And here we can see all the metrics PMetrium Native collected for us from my testing Android device. Let's start from some details. Really interesting. Let's increase the scale. And as you can see, PMetrium Native collects different hardware metrics: CPU, RAM, network usage, network all bytes from start to the end of the measurement, some battery statistic, frames, and applications. Application events. We will talk about them a bit later. Actually, those metrics are all for Android platform.
So does it like understand, or let's say how do you know that these metrics they are related just to your application, like your tested application?
Yes, good question. Thank you for that. The quick answer, answer to your question is that I need to pass a separate parameter, a name of the application I need to track, and then as a solution for Android platform, I need to know the process ID of that process, like duplicate, but in any case, I'm trying to transfer name to process ID. You can see that from log. I will show you. This log waiting for the application before I tap on it. And the next log, I found the process ID of application, and then I know how to track different metrics for that process.
So
And all
actually,
of
the
them,
metrics that you
yes.
got in Grafana, they are related just to your application, right? So it's not something general on system level with all your applications running on the phone.
Yes and no. You get both of them. You get a general metric. CPU total is the behavior of the whole system, and CPU of application is CPU metric only related to my tested application, not any other. But total include all the applications running on the system and the system itself.
Ah, okay, now I got it. Thank you.
Yes, and a few details. And as I said, we are able to measure the system, the behavior of the application for hardware metrics. The most interesting for us is CPU, RAM, network, and events. As about frames and battery, they are also interesting, but it's in some cases it's hard to pay a lot of attention to it or to them, and to get some predictions on how they should work. About frames, in ideal world, I would like to have here FPS, frames per second, but Android platform so far doesn't give me an option how to collect FPS in a appropriate way for our instrument. It just returns a total number of rendered frames and some statistic about junky frames, frames that are rendered slower than 60 milliseconds, 16 milliseconds. That's why I'm just showing the total number of rendered frames and junkie frames, not FPS. But of course, I would like to FPS. Talking in advance, this problem is not related to iOS platform. And to be honest, iOS platform almost totally different in terms of approaches, metrics, and it provides FPS metric in that case. One and more interesting details that we can work with some events. We have simple events and complex events. Simple events, it's some kind of annotation which you can see on Grafana, and they show you some activity, what was going on with application under the hood. These functionality events requires some integration into your source code, while all other metrics do not require integration into the source code. Events need that. And it looks like just a simple, one moment. It looks like just a simple line of code in your application, for example, in case of Android. We just need to get such kind of a log with PMetrium Native tag and name and timestamp at the end. And then you are gonna to get this event on your Grafana dashboard. So as much events you created for your application, as much event you will get on the Grafana dashboard.
So actually here you can
Another
get some like custom metrics like from inside of your application, right? Any extra information you want to pass into your results, correct?
Yes, so far it's only time-related metrics. How long does something took, or take? How long it was in the process?
And also Vlad is asking like what is the exact scenario running on the device. So as I understand right now, so in this demo we are doing all the actions just manually, correct? So we start the application or open it on the mobile phone.
Yes.
Then tool is connected to application and we can work with it, like just click with our hands, click some actions, and all the data
Right.
will be like stored and like calculated and stored. And could we automate this process? Like I believe you'll show it later, right? How to make it in more automatic way.
I can answer it right now. I'm not going to create a demo for this today, but I have this topic covered in documentation. One moment. I believe it's, yeah. Page run test on localhost and paragraph run from code. In case you would like to automate, it was one of our goals as well. You just need to have some kind of functional test. You don't need any piece of code related to PMetrium Native for your test. It doesn't depend what platform, Java, .NET, Python do you have. Almost all frameworks for functional tests have some basic instruments what to do before any kind of test. Like for in case of .NET, for C#, we have setup to do something before the test and tear down to do something after the test. So out externally from the test, you need to create an HTTP client, to create a request to PMetrium Native with the help of that client to some endpoint passing the device. It can be IP address in case of wireless connection for Android, or name in case of wired connection, and application name. You just calling Android start, your framework executes test, and then in teardown, your testing framework will call stop endpoint for your device. And in this way, you are able to automate fully what I just showed you manually.
So as I understand it, the PMetrium Native itself, like it's not an automation tool for running tests. It's more like a tool for automating the process of metrics gathering and capturing everything what is going on in like on the phone side. But if you want to, you can use it both manually and in automated way. But for automated way, you need to like create your automation script, automated functional tests with flows you want to cover. Am I right?
Right. To this question answers Appium in case of automation, but PMetrium Native it's more about measuring what is going on with your device and application in the background, not taking care about who or how do you communicate with device, what you are doing with the device and the application, who is clicking machine, some script or some guy sitting with that phone. You just call start to measure, doing everything you want, and call stop measure. And you will see everything going on between start and stop.
And while we are talking about this, there was another question from Anton. Uh, Assuming that it's possible, how hard it is to integrate PMetrium Native into my CI pipeline? So actually, like if he has his functional after tests ready and running on the mobile phone, right? He can easily integrate it just to add this prepare, like set up and tear down sections to his
Right.
test. Okay.
And in case of CI, of course, you need to take care of mobile device farm, and this mobile device farm is out of scope for PMetrium Native because we rely on that. You already have that farm, and we will not be able to cover everything related to device farm. So CI, you need to have workstation, or in another words, runner. To that runner, you need to have connected some real devices, Android or iOS, it depends on your needs. Up and running PMetrium native host with all the dependencies. I mean, some connection to InfluxDB with some installed prerequisites which you can find in a separate page. And then you will be fully able to automate everything you want from just calling endpoint to start and endpoint to stop.
And like how it look? Could you like provide some examples how it looks like in your case? Because I am pretty like I'm not familiar with mobile automation testing, and I believe most of us we are not familiar with it.
Okay.
So is it just some kind of physical? I understand it, like the concept itself, but in reality, is it
Okay.
some kind of I don't know, laptop with connected mobiles to it, or is it some cloud server in cloud? How? Yeah.
It's pretty simple in our case. It's just a few Mac Minis. Each Mac Mini represents a runner, or in our terminology, workstation. That Mac Mini, first of all, we have a connection to that Mac Mini. GitLab as a CI/CD tool also have a connection to that Mac Mini, and looks at it as a runner, and that Mac Mini has real connected devices, Android and iOS devices. We have a separate team who manage this device firm, and our task is just to connect to that Mac Mini, up and run PMetrium Native host to open a network connection to our InfluxDB, and to just hand over a running test to automation team, and that's all. After each test, you will be able to get metrics. If you, in case you add setup and teardown steps before and after a test.
It sounds not so complex, but let's say if we don't have a bunch of Mac Minis available and separate team for managing it, so like in simple case, like in cheap case, in cheap way, we can use like our laptop with mobile phone connected, right? So our laptop, if we want to run this test from CI, then the most important part that our laptop, if we want to use it as a runner, it should be reachable in network, right? So the
Yes.
CI server, like the server where GitLab CI or Jenkins, it should be able to connect to your machine by IP address and start the agent there. Yeah, probably
Yes,
it should work.
Yes, it's not so common case to connect GitLab Runner as your workstation to GitLab or any kind of CI/CD tool. But yes, it can be. Why not? All the developing I was doing on my laptop. Right now, demo I'm showing you with also my top connected with two devices, two real devices. I can show you to the camera, and everything is saving to my local InfluxDB, and I'm showing you with my local Grafana.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned.
It's
So yeah, it's not the case to connect some production GitLab CI server or Jenkins server to your machine, but if the main goal is just to automate the process, like to have your tests running every night for 10 I know for 10 hours at night, then you can just use your laptop as everything, as the InfluxDB server, Grafana server, CI server, and also the agent with the devices connected. So that's not a big deal.
yes, yes, really similar to Gmeter and related stuff to Gmeter in some cases, or even to site speed for client-side performance testing. Okay. I'm going to show you, in case there are no other questions, I'm continuing, right? Or do we have any other questions right now?
No one.
Okay, I'm proceeding to some examples which I prepared in advance for you. First of them is one more time to show and point your attention to events. Let's have one run with my test application and collected metrics. Let's look at the events one more time. We have just simple points in time with some name, and we, knowing our code, can understood what was happening in some point in time, and to understand the behavior of our application. But let's say we want to know how long some action continued. And for this purpose, we have introduced complex events, and we can see them with the help of annotations in Grafana. As you can see, we have violet annotations, and we have start CPU load and timestamp when it happened, and end CPU load. So we can understand how much time did this one logical action took, for example. Of course, from the first look, you need to calculate taking this timestamp minus this timestamp, and you will get a result in milliseconds how much time did it took. But we provide you a separate chart, application events, with these details already calculated for you. And this point means how much time did a complex event continued. In other words, this point in time minus this point in time, and we've got latency. As you can see, this complex event have name CPU load. We have another complex event I will show you. And I did it or repeated 3 times in a row. All behavior are almost the same. And we can check how much time did each complex event took.
So what is
For
the
this
complex
example,
event itself? So can we make a little step back? Could you open
yes,
the
yes.
mobile screen once again? The application screen.
Application screen. One moment. Yes, I can.
So we just skipped this part. Yeah, I believe we didn't spend a lot of time on this. So what I want to understand, yeah, we had in your demo application, you had bunch of different actions, like
Yes.
generating some like performance, not issues, but performance cases, right? Generating a lot of CPU or generating some objects in memory. That's why
Yes.
applications start using it more. Could you show it once again? And can we like align the actions that you was doing? So even no need to
With
start.
the results on the grafana, right?
Yeah, with the results. So we can like how we need to analyze the results. Because yeah,
Okay.
we have some fancy charts, but what does they mean?
Okay. I see your question. Talking in advance, everything is unclear for you from my speech today. You can check in the documentation and contact me later. Of course, too many information or too much information for today. But thank you, Anton, for your question. I will try to explain as much as I can, as easy as I can. For example, for Android, I created that application which you have seen on the screen. Yes, on this screen, this is my testing application. And this is a code for that application. Don't look at the code itself. I'm not a native Android developer, so I just created some bad code, for example. But in any case, in terms of complex event, you need to let's imagine you have some method or function in your code, in your real production code for native application, and it doing some logic under the hood. In my case, it's just simple cycle, and you need to know how much time did it or how much time can it take to execute that logic. You just need to add this one line with a tag, with tag start, a name, and timestamp at the end. All the syntax is explained in the documentation in more details. After the logic you want to measure, you just need to add another line of the code related to PMetrium Native, with the same, almost the same, but with a tag and the same timestamp. Only one strong requirement is to have the same name for start and the end. In case you will just add some number, PMetrium Native will not be able to distinguish and merge separate events into complex events. So moving back to application, need to show you one more time how to use complex events. We need to start one more time our measurement, just calling an endpoint for start. We've got luck that wait for the application. I clicking on it. Yes, we have a PID. So, and now I'm starting to interact with the application. I have complex event for this button to create CPU load and to finish, and complex event for get key of time, when a request started and when request ended. So first of all, start CPU. We will see the result here, and when results is shown, it means that the complex event has finished. Okay, let's clear to create another complex event for the same CPU load. Waiting for the result. Okay, and now let's create another complex event for network activity. When times come, it means that complex event has ended. Let's create another complex event. So we just finished four complex events.
So
Call stop.
these buttons in application, just to understand
Yes.
what they do. So CPU start, it's just doing some simple operation in a loop, right? Just to keep
Yeah,
CPU busy.
like this.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So that's clear. So when you click CPU start, it starts executing actions in a loop. When you click CPU end, it stops doing this. About memory, the same, it just creates in a loop like millions of objects, correct?
Yes, totally right. It just this application is just for testing to show my interaction with a native application and to look the results in Grafana.
Okay, and what about network? So I saw also something related to GIF and
Yeah.
to network. So GIF is to load your like visual processor, or I don't know, like GPU.
Yes. Yes, I'm not able to measure a GPU percentage for so far, at least for Android platforms, but I do it for iOS. In terms of screen activity, when I enable GIF, I'm able to see the results in a frame chart with the increasing total number of rendered frames from the start of the test till the end. You will see in case of missing activity on the screen, you will see one number of rendered frames. In case of some GIF shown on the screen, you will see a bigger number of rendered frames.
And what about network? You're sending somewhere
For
the request?
yes, network, we just created 4 events. One event, two first events were for CPU load, and next events were for network activity. Let's look a bit closer. So this point in time means when request, or even I can show
I
when
mean,
he
when you
created.
do the like the network activity, so are you sending the
Yes, yes.
real request somewhere? Like, what is the
Yes,
request?
yes, real request. Yes, real request to endpoint for getting a time, like this one. I'm getting a one moment. I'm getting a response and taking this time. And to increase an activity, I just download some image under the hood.
Oh, okay. Now I get it.
I'm not showing it in the application, but I wanted to create some traffic impact. So we can see how much data were produced during a second. Moreover, you have an option to filter by network interfaces, Wi-Fi and mobile interface. So we received through Wi-Fi such amount of bytes per second. And on this chart, you can see how much totally bytes were received by Wi-Fi interface on a timeline. And at the same things you can do with the help of mobile interface. I'm connected through the Wi-Fi, so almost now. But I have example of network activity. I did a measure before the presentation for site speed application. Site speed application, it's should be, I hope it's clear. This
You mean
one,
speed test?
to
Speed
check
test.
the
Speed
net,
test. Okay.
yeah, speed tests, yeah. And I can show you the results. Let's take Wi-Fi first. So I received during the test such amount of data received and transmitted another portion of data with the speed you can see on the screen, megabytes per second. And the total amount of data transferred and received by Wi-Fi interface. Then I did almost the same things, but for my mobile internet connection. Let's take for the system itself. And as you can see, it's much less than Wi-Fi speed. Let's look a bit in a bit better shape. So I received such kind of data per second and transmitted a bit less than I was able to download. It's just an example of how to test another application, not like real application, not just test application which I created. So it's a speed test application. Yeah, download from the Google Play Store. Do you have questions right now, or just can proceed?
Yeah, it's clear, I believe. So, as I understand right now, these complex actions, right now, so without any code change, let's say, when you just run some like any application without changing the code base, you will see the system metrics like the CPU, memory, network, battery usage, all this stuff. But you will not right now. You will not see like the distribution, like when was the action, so like specific action done, right? So you need to add this complex event to be able to identify which action, which action was started at this moment and what was the duration of this action.
Right.
And
everything I'm going to see only will be what I'm showing you right now, without events and complex events, without penetration to the source code of your application.
And the difference between events and complex events, so event is just some event or something like I started doing some action, and complex where you need to measure duration, right?
Start, yes, right. just a requirement for a complex event to have a tag, start and end, and the same name. And simple events are a base for complex event, but they do not require any additional options, just to have a name without tag and to have a timestamp. You will see just one action on a timeline.
I have a feature request to your application, to your tool, actually.
Okay, let's
So not to like maybe have two options. So first one, which you are showing right now, so to modify the source code, and maybe think about second option is to create these events using the API itself. So let's say, could you show the example of the automation script that you might have on
Yes, I see your point. What you are going to tell me.
like send some
Uh,
post request with event or the how it's called, like to have something similar to the performance API we have in browser. So as it works for the regular client-side tests. Uh, let's say SiteSpeed.io, we have any scenario. SiteSpeed.io is measuring bunch of like tons of metrics, but sometimes you need more. You need something custom, and you are able to use performance API of browser and say, okay, create the event, measure the timestamps, like measure the duration between two events, etc. So did you think about this before? Maybe you know some
uh,
problems and don't want to do this.
I didn't consider it before, but I see your point. It's valuable. Thank you for a good tip how to develop PMetrium Native. You're right. Basically, that it's not too hard to implement. You will be able to modify your functional test to add some simple pieces of code to create events. I just need to extend an API for PMetrium Native. As you said, save this point with this time for my test. PMetrium Native will be able to distinguish these events and to show them. I will notice this feature request, and I guess I will add it later on third version of PMetrium Native.
Yeah, well, it would be cool. Even you can think about maybe like two implementations. First one is pretty easy. So even it's not it doesn't require changes to the tool itself. So you can just show maybe a few examples in documentation how you could send an annotation into InfluxDB directly. So without extra interaction with PMetrium Native. So you can actually send
Yes.
all the annotations you have right now just from your after test. So you're pretty flexible here. But it would be great to
Yes, it
have
can
it
be
in the
done.
tool. So it's like one source of truth. So your end users will not like will not write some bad code and just break all the metrics.
Yes, as a workaround so far, before I will publish these changes, you can save directly into InfluxDB some annotations which represents events and to satisfy this query. And then you will see your events on the Grafana. So I hope it's more or less clear what events and complex events are and what is the difference between them. And suggest to move on.
One more question. Could you show the
Okay.
last chart with the duration of this complex event?
This one, right?
No, the last one. When like you showed which like the chart which shows the exact duration time. It was the at the
Yes.
bottom of this dashboard, I believe.
Yes.
So
Yes. What
it
here?
shows
Here it
like
is.
the CPU. Yeah. One more feature request. Probably you could implement this easily. So uh, when the tool itself it sees that, okay, right now we are measuring some kind of event or complex event. Probably it can
Yes.
send, let's say, action name or something like this into InfluxDB. So on the dashboard, you would be able to identify and group by this name. So you will not
I'm
have, yeah, go on.
I'm doing right now that CPU load. It's basically two complex events. These 2 points means that, and I'm looking at the similar name, trying to cut everything I'm not interested in, just looking for a name and showing the results
So
here,
CPU load
grouping
is
by.
the name of your event, right?
Yes,
Okay.
is the name of complex event, and we created two events, one here and one here. That's why we just see 2 points here. Why are they not connected? It's just simply explainable by this threshold to one moment,
Yeah, that's
10
fine.
seconds.
It was just
Yeah.
a little bit badly named, so it's not clear that that's really the custom thing that you named it like CPU load. It looks more like the general name just for CPU utilization.
I see, but in that case, it depends on the name you put here. And why it's not showing start and end, because I did it intentionally not to show here two names for the same event. Uh, as you can see, simple events are a higher level of events. That's why you can see every points on a timeline. But complex events will have only a name without a start and end tag. You will see them here. And that's why application events just showing a name of a complex
Yeah,
events.
that's clear. That's totally fine. Okay,
Mhm.
so then forget about it.
Okay.
Yeah, let's move on.
So yeah. Um, just a few more examples. We only talked about Android so far, but I will tell about iOS in a few minutes, I hope. So for Android, a few last examples. Um, on my phone, I have two working mode of the system. One is just balanced, and another one is performance mode for games, for example. And as you can see, there are almost no difference between metrics for these measurements. I guess it's because of my application is not about playing, so it's hard to catch some difference between two measurements. Almost all charts are the same. There is only a small difference on CPU. You can see on this point of time, but it's hard to say that they are so well noticeable. Uh, Another example is about frame. Also on my phone, I have two modes of the screen. One of them is 60 hertz refresh rate, and another one is 90 hertz refresh rate of the screen. And for my testing application, I can show you differences only on this chart. I did the same test in both cases. It took 15 seconds. And rendered frames during the first test with 60 hertz refresh rates, rendered frames was 688. In second case with higher refresh rates, it was 731. So this mode of the screen really has impact on the results collected by the PMetrium Native. In case there would be any other activity on the screen much more than I have in my testing application, you would see a bigger difference, as I saw for our company's native app. Okay, another example we partially covered for site speed. I was going to show you only that PMetrium Native can work with any application you would like it to do, and to point your attention on network matrix itself. The first release of PMetrium Native only supported Android platform, and there was one annoying problem that at that time I was able to collect metrics for network only with root access to the device. I hacked a phone a bit, and I installed that a Linux tool, NetTalks, the name of the tool, and with the help of it, I was able to collect networks activity. And it was not an ideal solution, so I decided to rewrite the approach to investigate another one, and I found a much better, much more reliable, and it gives me everything I need without root access, with network activity, with all the details I need, even more than NetTalks could give me there at that time. So let's move to iOS solution. Few words about iOS. It's a totally different approach in terms of how to collect metrics, how to parse them, how to set up the system. But I tried to do this integration for PMetrium Native as smooth as possible and to as much similar to Android as possible, as far from the point of view of end user. In this case, we just have a separate dashboard for iOS with a bit similar parameters, or almost the same parameters as we have for Android, but with a different set of metrics separated to system metrics and application side metrics. There are a lot of other metrics we can collect for iOS platform, but so far I stopped on the most interesting for myself, at least, and in my opinion, the most relevant at the moment. I will not explain in details what kind of metrics I'm taking for iOS platform. All the details you can find in the documentation. There is a separate page for metrics, Android and iOS platform. You can read more of what does it mean, and some notes, for example, in Android case. What is more interesting is really the approach for iOS platform. In case of for Android, I was able to connect to the device, even to proceed to the inside of the device with the help of ADB protocol. I have my device, ADB connection, and right now I'm inside of my phone, and I can call any command I need, and to get statistic with for hardware metrics. For CPU, for memory, of course, I did a lot of research how to collect that metrics, how to parse them, what metrics to consider, and so on. But it is more or less clear what is happening for Android. And for those of you who would like to deep into the details, you can download a repository or to look at GitHub for the source code. One moment. It's sharing the screen. Okay. One moment. You can find a source code for PMetrium Native for Android. There is a scripts shell and a heart for Android platform is this large script. It executes all the command I need to collect all the metrics. You can check the details, check the structure of the script, and to reach me in case you have some questions, and so on. So moving back to iOS platform. So in case of iOS, I cannot just simply connect to iPhone to do everything I need because of security policy of Apple company. So the approach is totally different. For that goal, I need to need to find an approach how to basically even take any kind of matrix. First of all, I found a useful approach, manual approach, first of all, to use an instrument which is provided together with Xcode. It's a profiling tool for iOS, even for Mac or watchOS platforms to profile the system and application installed on that system. As you can see, Instruments provides different templates, and inside of that templates, you can find different charts to look at metrics you are interested in. For my goal, I created a new template called PMetrium Native as well. I didn't point a lot of attention to the name. So you just need to choose the template to select any kind of application, or you just track all the processes inside of the phone and to start measurement. It's all about manual action so far. You refuse unexpectedly. Let's check what is wrong. Should be okay. Yeah. Right now, I'm just collecting different metrics for iOS platform, taking some actions on the phone, and I can just call stop. I need to wait for the active button. Yes, I can stop. All the kind of metrics I get with the help of instruments, Xcode instruments, you can see right on the screen with in different sections, even with some charts. Let's do like this. Yeah, some system CPU, system run, and so on. I collected this matrix inside of my template. And another big task for this is to find how to automate all this process and how to extract and visualize metrics. The first thing I was needed to do is basically to create this template. To create a template, you need to create a bit some portion of code or even a project for instruments based on XML. It's a bit strange that you need to code on XML, but with the help of this project, you will get a template which I just showed you. You will be able to install it on your machine, and then PMetrium Native are going to collect metrics and parse them under the hood and visualize on the Grafana dashboard. So every metric you see here, you will be able to see with instrument. As I said, PMetrium Native do a lot of job under the hood to parse that metrics and to save in Grafana dashboard in more readable format, I think, than it is shown in UI part of the Xcode instruments. As well as Android platform, iOS supports working with events and complex events as well. Let's check complex events and the same CPU load. We have 3 CPU loads in a row and also have this complex event shown here. An approach for these complex events are almost the same as it was for Android. You just need to create some log with some defined structure, and PMetrium Native will be able to track that event. And as you can see, CPU activity and CPU activity for the application.
So for iOS,
To increase,
you don't need to do all these manual actions that you showed. So it's basically you just demoed how it works under the hood. So for end user
yes,
perspective,
it was a demo how I researched that.
Okay, because it looked like too scary that you need to do this. Actually, so you just start measuring like with single HTTP request, right? With this curl.
Right.
And
almost the same as it was for Android.
It's pretty straightforward and easy. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, in case you would like to increase much between these annotations when some activity started and when some activity ended, you can use this group time option to match annotations closer to metrics. The default value is 1 second because I track metrics each second. But sometimes, as you can see, annotations may not be in the middle of the process. But when you decrease at group time, you will see an exact event between your annotations, or in other words, between your events. It's some kind of a hack because metrics are not always collected right at the moment of some events. They collect them in each second, not related to what is going on with your application. And this is a hack how to increase how to increase in looking at the details. So basically that's it. And just to summarize for iOS, almost everything I told for Android is applicable for iOS. Approach the same, just you need to know the device name. In this case, it's grid. An application you are going to test, call endpoint for start, and then endpoint for stop. There is some another annoying details for iOS platforms I need to highlight. First of all, it took much more time to start measurement and to stop measurement for Android in comparison with Android for iOS in comparison with Android. It totally depends on the behavior of XC trace. I need to show you. XCtrace, it's a set of utils I'm using for PMetrium Native to communicate and to collect metrics from iOS. And I call XCtrace record with some bunch of parameters. And this takes about 5-10 seconds to start. And when it takes up to 2 seconds for Android, and about 20 seconds to finish. And there is much more annoying problem with XC-Trace that from time to time it is not able to finish the test successfully. Um, it it feels like it hug for forever, and um, in my application, I just canceling that process after a minute, 1 minute of timeout, and then my suggestion you to just repeat the test. I don't know the reason why XC-Trace sometimes don't want to return results, and I'm not able to parse them. So maybe somebody will have a desire to help me, and welcome. It's PMetrium Native open source, so contributors are welcome. So basically that's it. In case you have any questions, comments, please proceed.
Yep, cool. That's a really great presentation. I really enjoyed it. So we have a bunch of questions in the comments. So first one is about the performance impact. So does the PM native actually has some extra overhead, like produce some extra overhead to your system or not? Or it's more like related to to the tooling that you're using. For example, this Xcode stuff, all these tools might cause the impact, right?
Of course, thank you for the question. It's really a valuable question in this case. Nothing in this world is free. You need to pay some value for what you are doing, almost in all cases. The same for PMetrium Native. For Android, we even measured the overhead of as all the processes related to measurement, and it's about from. Of course, it depends on what kind of mobile device you have, what CPU is based on with that platform, and what RAM, what battery, what Wi-Fi connection do you have. So in our average measurements, overhead was about from 10 to 15% of all system CPU load. In some cases it can be too high for somebody. I'm going to work on the optimization for PMetrium Native third version, and so far it's some trade-off we have for Android platform, at least. For Android for Android platform, for iOS, I didn't do such kind of measurement simply because I even do not have any other choice for approach to measure the performance metrics. So due to that, I decided not to perform such kind of measurement on the impact of XC-Trace utils.
But you mentioned that you have some kind of overhead. I believe both for iOS and Android. Uh, is it actually a way, even like when you're when you're trying to test manually? Is it a way to measure all these hardware metrics and network metrics without any overhead? Like I'm not sure because you obviously need to
No.
connect some extra utilities to measure all this stuff. So you will have an overhead in any case, unfortunately.
You will always have an overhead with all the matrix agents. Even in case, for example, in Prometheus agents, you need from your application to expose your matrix in order to allow Prometheus agents to collect them. So even producing that matrix creates overhead for your application. I can give you a good tip for Android platform. It supports by default, Android endpoint for start will collect all metrics available for Android platform. But in case you need only CPU of your application and let's say you don't want to know a battery statistic or frame details, you can turn off everything except you are interested in. It will decrease an overhead for sure. That's my answer. iOS do not have that option so far, so it will collect all metrics available.
Cool. Another question from Anton. Like some tools can record the video from the screen, so I cannot only see the numbers, but also see how it feels for end user to work with my app. So can PMetrium Native record the screen as well?
Good questions, as always. PMetrium Native had plans to record video and save it even in second version, but due to lack of time, I decided to postpone this idea to the next releases, and I did small research how to do that for Android. It's pretty simple in comparison with other task I did for PMetrium Native. I even have a working approach how to implement that, where to store that videos, and how to even show that videos directly here in annotations. And it's just a matter of time how when this will come alive. At the same time, for iOS, it's almost for me impossible to implement this. I tried to find a solution. I even did a small POC, proof of concept for creating a video and storing it in the same manner as I decided to do for Android. But it was so unreliable approach. So I was able to get a video only a few times, and in all other cases, it was unsuccess and strange behavior, strange results, some unexpected issues, and a lot of difficult cases to investigate. So far,
But like
iOS
at the same
platform
time,
is not ready.
yeah, at the same time,
Yeah.
you probably can use like I believe Appium is able, like if you're using any like automation, mobile automation, functional automation tools to write your tests, probably that tool would have the like the features for video recording and like screen captures, etc.
Yes, I see what you mean. I also considered that Appium is able to record a video for iOS. I tried to investigate how Appium does that, but I still not able to suggest a good approach for recording a video on iOS. Maybe I will spend some additional time in the future uh, to solve this issue, to find an approach. And so far, I'm not able to do that.
Okay. Sounds good. There are a lot of different questions, but on the same topic. So how to measure, like how to measure user flows, or how to measure any specific event, or how to understand which action provided high load. So actually, I believe we covered this. with the events and with these
Yes,
complex
with the
events,
help of
you
events,
you can
right?
you can do this.
You can just create some tips, I mean events with some name, and you will understand that at that moment my user clicked on that button, or in terminology of native applications, tap on that button, and I see the impact on CPU or in other metrics, and you just can leave some breadcrumbs in your application and to collect them with the help of PMetrium Native, and to create match between what is going on with application and what's the results on metrics.
But again, it was to mention that right now you need to modify the source code of your application just to get these events, like simple events and complex events. But like a quick fix before, like before there will be the new version of tool which will allow you to like create it out of out of scope of code. You can just let's say send an HTTP request to send any annotations to InfluxDB itself. So
Yes, it's workarounds of
that's the
ARM.
pretty, yeah, it's a workaround. It's a pretty simple request, just a single line of payload to InfluxDB. So probably maybe even me or Mikola can provide an example how to store the data in
Yes.
InfluxDB. So it's just the, I believe that's the quicker way. So if you want to try this tool, or like try on your project, or try on demo application, maybe on demo application it's easier to test it because you have the source code. But if you want to test some random application, from the Play Store, probably you don't have access to source code and you are not able to build it.
Right.
So that will be the quick workaround to measure everything you want.
Yes, your suggestion is really cool. I will notice it.
Another question is like, if you don't put application name as a parameter, will it measure all system metrics, or this
Yes.
application name, is it mandatory or optional?
It's not mandatory field. You can check that on the documentation on a page metrics. There is now in documentation I didn't cover this, but I covered this in a Swagger. It's another kind of documentation for Android. You have only one required field, the device you need to work with for PMetrium Native, and a default value system. If you do not provide any application name, then PMetrium Native only collects metrics for system itself, and you will see only CPU total, RAM total, and so on, like this. And for iOS, almost the same. Only one required parameter, device. And I forgot to mention that PMetrium Native is able to work with few devices in parallel. You not you didn't you haven't to work only with one device in a row. You can run as many tests as you want in parallel.
And we have one more question from Oleg,
Okay.
and it's really interesting. I like it. So, how long did it take to release the first version of PMetrium Native, and how frequently do you contribute to this project? And maybe I'll extend the question a little bit. So, how long it took for you to actually make a research on the, let's say, how long it took for you from the scratch to the first working version. So from scratch, I mean like how long did you made the market research, like trying to test all the available solutions, and then how you like mm, talked with your company to get enough of resources, I mean your time, like approve
Mm-hmm.
some time spent for creating the new solution, because it's some kind of risky activity, yeah, you know, to develop a new tool from scratch. So how long did it take, and
Yes.
how was your like interaction with your company, and how do you feel, like do you like the result, and are you proud of yourself?
Uh, okay, I will try to answer that difficult and interesting question at the same time. Uh, I did a research about, together with my colleague Pavlo, about 2 or even more 3 weeks. I tried uh, to to try different approaches, different to write an app team and ask them to provide some kind of demo for CI/CD solution, but they didn't reply to us. We decided to start from Android to find a solution for Android because we thought it would be much easier for us to start from an open platform when iOS is much more proprietary platform in comparison with Android. And Android basically is Linux under the hood. So uh, I already knew some approaches on how to debug Linux applications, how to track metrics for them, and I tried to apply my knowledge for Linux to Android. And step by step, I was able to find a solution for CPU at first, then for RAM, then for battery, for frames, for networks. But for network, it was some a bit more trickier than for other metrics. And um, the first version of PMetrium Native was only for Android without a statistic with a response in stop endpoint. First version took about 3 months from the investigation to the first working solution. We first released the solution inside of the company without proceeding to open source. We decided to put the code to open source 2 months later after inside release. After that, I started to work on second version. The requirement was the support of iOS platform. In some kind, it was easier to develop in comparison with Android platform, but from other side, it was a bit more difficult comparison with Android as well. Easier because you do not have a lot of approaches, you do not have a lot of choices, only the things that is provided by Apple. I watched a lot of WWDC videos, presentations, and how to work with performance at all, how to profile devices and applications installed in it. And it was quite straightforward, but I found I was stuck with some lack of information about how does it works, how things works together, and so on. Um, and another tricky issues were with matrix because uh, uh, everything you have seen in instruments UI interface was quite understandable in a table view, but behind this table are a lot of difficult manipulations with metrics, how to parse them, how to work with the source, and so on. And second version in general took about 4 months, not like 8 hours per day development, but with some focus on that application. About 4 months, yes. So in general, it took about 7 months of development until this point.
Like sounds like a big number, but in general, not so big as it could be. For example, like SiteSpeed.io is developing like for the years right now.
Yeah.
Not
As I
even
said,
talking
I
about
had
web page test or something like that. More like old tools. That's cool. And
yes, as I said,
yeah.
sorry for interruption because it's the internet connection sounds like with some delay. Just quick reply. As I said, I didn't work with a full focus on the instrument all the time. I had a lot of other tasks in the background I need to take care, and I do not have a big team. I just developed everything by my own. Of course, first version I was developing together with my colleague, but after that I just need to take care of everything by myself.
Maybe even if you would work like for 8 or 10 hours in a day, you may get the results sooner, but I'm not sure, because in this, mm, when you create something from scratch without a lot of like relevant experience in this, you need to get this inspiration or some idea, and that takes some time. So even that might take 7 months, not only for development but also on thinking and designing all this stuff. And I just got
Yes.
the interesting question. So the SiteSpeed.io itself, it it also allows you to test your application, like not your application but your website on the mobile device. So it is not
Yes.
it doesn't allow you to test native applications. You can just run the
No. No.
Safari or like the Chrome on mobile device and test your application, your website. So
Yes.
did you think about integrating with SiteSpeed.io? Like SiteSpeed.io is pretty, like it's right now it's more like an industry standard for client-side performance testing, and they are cool because they are integrated with another tools. So web page test, Google Page Speed Insight, Lighthouse, everything like is available for integration. So you can contribute to SiteSpeed.io, and SiteSpeed users could use your instrument also for test native applications. Think about it.
Yes, I will think. And to be honest, I was inspiring based on SiteSpeed.io. In my personal opinion, SiteSpeed.io is the best open source framework tool or project I've ever seen in the internet. Of course, in my sphere of interests.
Yep, totally agree. Like SiteSpeed.io is a top. But actually, like what you show today, it looks also really cool because you decided not to invent the wheel in scope of monitoring or displaying the results. So you have used like the industry standard tools that are really cool and can plot all the charts really beautiful. And that's the scene that makes and the first impression. So yeah, it requires some extra like pre-installation stuff, but everything needs this. Even SiteSpeed.io, if you want to run tests on the Android or iOS, it requires to install the Xcode or some extra stuff. But
For sure.
the charts, they are fancy. It makes this wow effect. So I really enjoyed your presentation today. Let's check whether we have any more questions. Probably, yeah, we're good. So if
Okay.
maybe let's wait for the like for 30 seconds more if somebody have any questions. If not, then we can end today's event. It was, say it once again, it was really interesting, and I believe that's the top contribution to the performance testing, not even the community but the industry, because this tool might have a really big future. Yep,
I
thank you.
hope it has a potential, and I will say it once again. I welcome any contributors to this project. It's fully open source. You can create forks, can develop your own versions, and increase functionality for an existing solution.
Okay,
So,
so
in
yeah,
case there are no other questions,
looks like yes.
thank you for your attention. Thank you, Anton, for inviting me to this event. I was really glad to share this instrument together with you, to create a demo for you, and to discuss really great questions during the presentation. And I will say it once again that your idea about creating events outside of application with the help of API from PMetrium Native sounds really good, and I'm going to implement it as well.
Thank you. Then thank you for these comments. Yeah, thank you all. Not only Mikola. Yeah, Mikola is a big shout out for the tool and presentation, and also thank you everybody that you joined. Thank you for your questions. So, like, stay tuned for the new event, and see you